Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Manifesting Health series. We're so excited to have Todd join us again today. Welcome back, Todd. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Curry, for having me on.
Absolutely. Todd is a pioneering voice for men's transformation, masculine restoration, and the purpose-driven leadership. So, Todd, thank you again for being back with us. We're really excited to have you share with us because I know, since our last conversation, you've had a lot of new initiatives that you've come through with, based on a lot of need and a lot of gaps that you're seeing when you have more and more conversation with some groups. Can you kind of give us a rundown of some new things that you got going on in your space?
Oh, Curry, thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey, as I work more with men and actually women, which is really interesting because there's such a balance, there's a balance in it. And so what I've learned is I've created some programs for men specifically, just because, a lot of times we as men, we get stuck in certain situations where we have this idea on how we should show up and how we need to be based on a playbook that we think we know what it is. And in reality, we've lost a lot of who we are in the process. The current state of kind of our environment as we grown up, and not to make this a long thing, but we've been suppressed in the masculine space. We haven't had a lot of male role models, and we've become very disconnected. And so in the work that I've done is I've realized that when men start to connect in a healthy, authentic way and start to learn that the transformation really happens. And so in the process of me working with groups of men and guys one on one, that I started to notice some things that they really need. And there's subtle symptoms that men in general, like we don't ask for help. That's probably the biggest thing, right? So I've created some programs that are kind of either very like people are like, yeah, I really need to work on some of these issues of me feeling stuck or suppressed, or I just don't feel like I have this purpose like I used to, or and it often shows up as, a lot of guys say, hey, I just, I'm going to put a term to it, just feel like an imposter, like that imposter syndrome stuff that humans go through, but we kind of take it into this isolative place and we don't know what to do about it and we act like we're fine.
Hmm.
And then we're like, okay, and then we come up with our own solutions because I need to fix it or
Right,
fix
right.
something else and it starts to go. So I've created a bunch of programs for men and actually in men in nursing because I've seen some very challenging things. So you think at a global level, like men are suppressed and feeling this, but you think about men in a field that's, we're still low in numbers,
Hmm.
we're in a female dominated role. There's a lot of stereotype stuff, and so men have actually adapted to some of these things that have been kind of in our environment. Tony Robbins talks about it, you become who you spend time with or the
Hmm.
environment you're in. And so when men could start to step into their true space, their authentic selves, and learn this and understand it, they become better for themselves, their families, and the people they work. So I've created a few different programs at all different levels, either one-on-one and also group phenomenon, group coaching. And I think I've created one for also educators and leaders that lead men. The females that interaction are leading men now, right? And so how does that work? How do I start to connect and how do I understand this some of the things that men are thinking because it gets interpreted very differently from different lenses. Does that make sense?
It does. And, I'm so glad you started talking about the being stuck concept. As a male and colleagues and friends and family and so forth, especially for the male population, we often do, we can get in very stuck spaces. In that stuck space, we often feel like, well, society wants me to do this. I need to act in a certain way. And it's from whether it be a commercial or with the white noise around us or something we read, the constant inundation of social media that can be highly destructive in a way, in this sort of persona in some cases, and then not allowing those individuals. And so I appreciate what you're talking about by basically giving permission to be stuck. It's okay that you're stuck. What makes a difference is what do you do with that? and how do you get out of that space? And I'm so glad that you're able to tap into that. And something else is the fact that you've tapped into that. It's how you're also allowing those others around them, the female, female counterparts, partners, male counterparts, partners, whatever it might be, to say, hey, this is how you can help those individuals. Here's some resources. So let's talk a little bit about more that collateral support. What other opportunities do you have for the support network to help build a presence and to help those get unstuck, if you will?
So the support network is I've created some groups, and I also in the nursing space have created a group to just have a place where guys could just like be them. You know what I mean? And a supportive network, and just having some brothers. I use the term brothers because we've often we need each other. Like, it comes from men in service, understand this, and military. And I think, if I want to segue to nursing, that's something that I think not just the men need, but I think collectively the group does too. Like brothers and sisters, like we're here for each other. Like I got you on a deep level because I understand that you may be, I'm going to use the term stuck, or you have a place that's like kind of wounded or coming up. Like, let's just be there for each other so we could like collaboratively just see that. So I think what I've found in my own personal journey and also working with others, I coach and mentor people at a high level, but the problems are the same. It doesn't matter what level you're at, right? Like we think like, hey, I'm this executive or I'm a leader in this organization. And yet, not I say this about 90% of our business, our challenges, our personal problems in disguise. And if you can't look at this and start to look at it, men in general try to fix, right? And they try to perform. So the supportive services are, I love bringing groups together, and I love mentoring some of the guys that need to do that. But also in the process, I created with a fellow, a good colleague, and we've become really good friends. He's helped me put together my ideas and my thoughts into a theory and it's called, restorative masculine. It's an integrative framework that'll be published very soon in the American Journal for Men's Health, which really goes through some of the processes. So, in that I've integrated this into, I've been working with guys in this process and females. Like you don't think that this doesn't affect females, but females are now adopted a lot of the masculine traits, and also they're in relationship with men that may have suppressed and lost parts of themselves. They're trying to actually either take over that role or say, "Hey guy, come on, let's do this."
Right.
And they've lost themselves in the process, if that makes sense.
It does. And so how are you able to, so we're talking about individuals that may be stuck in a space or may be suppressed in a space, and how they feel like I will fix it, or you have a brotherhood to help you along. How do you get people to embrace that without feeling judged? Because we constantly, as the male population, others do the same too. They do it differently. But how do we do that and not feel judged for weakness, or feel judged against a stereotype, or judged against those, oh, you're able to figure this out. You have to help me figure this out. I must be the weak one in this social dynamic, because us being humans, we're very social creatures. And so for us in a social setting, not saying everyone wants to be the alpha, but it's an idea that I have to ask for help. I'm more vulnerable. I'm more weak in a social group of men who are like me. And others may have worse issues or more challenging issues and are able to overcome. Some may have the perfect perceived life, which is never perfect. We all know that. There's
Yeah.
always this facade in some cases. So, again, how do you get individuals to embrace these activities and changes without feeling the judgment that's often associated with it?
That's a great question. And like I could go for hours on that. But one of the
Sounds like
things,
another podcast.
it sounds like another podcast because you're right. Like, and I think there's that fear of judgment, and like we put words on things that so that short circuit so we don't
Hmm.
actually experience it so we make sense of it in our mind. So a lot of it comes up as I feel not okay or not good enough or scared, and we lump it into imposter syndrome or whatever. So and then we've got all these fancy terms, but the connection, the way to do it is connect beyond our gender,
Mhm.
beyond our role. I think here's the biggest piece, and this is a 300,000 foot look at it, is we identify with what we do rather than who we are. And so when we
Interesting.
create an identity, like let me use nursing as an example, is I'm a nurse, right? Like I asked that to people that are like, I'm a nurse, where they actually attach their identity to it. And so all of the stuff that comes up around survival and their identity is put into this and it causes stress. Same with men. Like we have men and women, right? So we identify, we are an identity. But if we go deeper, we're human.
Right.
And if we could start to connect to human and learn, and I think people have, I hate to say it, but we have lost connection. We have lost connection with each other and ourselves. And so the way to do that is to approach with what I call, I use a term kind of, it's tactical empathy, but it's very just let me connect with me, with you
Hmm.
and
Right.
learn how to do that. And then we learn how to connect with the inner parts of ourselves. But we do that through a conversation and also mirroring. And then when we look at the stoicisms and guys, there are alphas, right? There are alphas. Let's be honest, that happens. But when a true alpha becomes connected, he understands that and helps others. But when it becomes, I don't want to use the term toxic because we throw it around like
Mhm.
it's like not good. But when it becomes dysregulated or misaligned, that's when the challenge happens. So the how, it's interesting to watch in a dynamic of brothers
Mhm.
and then somebody tries to, you see it play out, and then you start to be an observer. So it
Mhm.
takes, that's why I say being around our brothers, a lot of guys, like I'll talk to guys all the time. I'm like, who do you spend time with? They're like, well, I'm working. Well, who do you work with? Most of the times, a lot of females, right? Who do you spend time with? Well, my wife, my spouse, or whatever, right? Whoever it is, they're around this and they haven't connected to some brothers where there's some trust and safety. And the funny thing that not funny, laughing, the funny like thing is like when I see guys start to connect, they're like, oh my God, you feel that way too? Or, oh my
Mhm.
God, and they start to open up. So to answer your question, it's starting to learn to connect, and it all
Right.
starts with us,
Right.
not them.
Right. That's a powerful takeaway is the understanding that being an empathetic observer, that person who does observe and to also try to connect with individuals, it doesn't have to be where you dominate a conversation or dominate a process or fix things, which we want to do. Why? Because it makes us feel good in that second, that moment. But at the same time, that observer to see how the dynamic plays out, but also be present in that observation and not just there in form. So I really appreciate your conversation today because it drives home a lot of the messages that you're sharing throughout all your different learning activities, your engagement, your social groups. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon with some more initiatives. So we're very excited. But thank you again, Todd, for your time, and I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you, Curry. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you again for joining us for the Manifesting Health series, and we will see you again next time.